Agotivach, this is Gemara Zevachim Daf Mem Dalid. We're holding on the bottom of Mem Gimel Amid Beis. We pulled up a little bit short, probably about 12 lines from the bottom. The first word of line is V'loshain Zachar Be'emsa. We like all the learning as we begin another week of learning Torah together to be an incredible Schos Refuah Shalema for Gabriel Simcha Ben Miriam Ahuva, B'siyata D'Shmaya, the incredible Koyach HaTorah should continue Gabriel Simcha Ben Miriam Ahuva on the path to a refuah shalema. Says the Gemara b'masnita Titania. The Gemara is building off of what we just ended, the din, that which Rav, the memra, that which Rava said, that Zeiri is the one that needs to explain a brisa, and if not, it's not clear. And therefore we dive right in with a brisa that does not have Zeiri's explanation, and we'll see the lack of clarity. Masnita Titania says regarding someone who eats kachim while he's tamei, im nemru kalois. If the kalois, if the lenient ones are already said, lama nemru chamuros. Why do we have to say that with those which are chamur? V'nemru chamuros, some nemru kalois. Explains the brayso. In nemru kalois, nemru v'loy chamuros. If it only said the kalos and not the chamuros, what would I have thought? Ala kalois belav. That for something which is kal, there's a lav with a malchus. Vala chamuros b'misa b'dei shamayim. Lekach nemar chamuros. Therefore, says the brayso, the chamuros are mentioned to say that they as well are receive malchus. So that's why, says the brayso, each needs to be mentioned. So says the Gemara, end of brayso. But now, in this brayso, we don't know what is kalois and what is chamuros. What's the subject of the brayso? Says the Gemara, my kalois my chamuros. Lema, 5 lines to the bottom. Kalois, meiser, chamuros, truma. Kalois are meiser, that which is chamur is truma. Hayisi omer. How can you say that? B'misa. How would you have said that the chamuros one is chayim misa? Which would show us that lemaisa it's not. But it's not true. Hashanami abba misa. Lamaisa, they are chayav misa. V'so v'loy namar yisi aimer b'misa. Ta'elav b'midian liyas kinidoin. How you'd have thought that? So says the Gemara, it can't be talking about meiser and truma. Ella, 3 lines to the bottom. What must the subject of the brayso be? Kalois, tomas sheretz, chamurois, tomas meis, ubimai. And now, what are we discussing? Ibichuma, Aidvadi Ubamisa. Visu, and furthermore, Lekach Nemra Chamurois. The brayso said it said Chamurois to Belav Mimisa, because if not, would have been Misa. Says the Gemara, excuse me, Lemaisa, if you eat Truma when you're tummy, you're Chayim Misa. Viva Achilas Meiser. You tell me it's talking about meiser as we turn over to Mem Dalid Amid Aleph. Then when the brayso says we just said we were talking about Tumas Sheretz, which is not misa. So what is going on? So we have a brayso that we do not have clarity, and that's really all we are quoting for this brayso, is to show our lack of clarity. And now, Amar Zeiri, and this was the recipe that we were looking for, a not clear brayso that Zeiri is going to explain. Amar Zeiri, 4 lines down, Mem Dalid Amid Aleph, Kalois Tomas Sheretz, Chamurois Tomas Meis V'Hachi Kamar. This is how we explain the brayso. Ilu Nemar Tomas Sheretz. If only said the Kalois Tomas Sheretz V'Nemar Meiser Truma. V'loy nemru tumas meis, eisiamer kalis ala kalis bilav, ala chamuris b'misa. When they kalis ala chamuris b'misa, chamuris nami ala kalis b'misa. Lakach ne'amar, that's why it said chamuris. It says the Gemara, it's a little bit of an inventive way of explaining the brisa. An inventive way that barring the svara, the pirush of Ziri, we did not know. And with Ziri, we have a clear explanation of the brisa. So Gemara quoted this brisa to prove without what Rava said, that a brisa without Ziri is unclear. With Ziri, it is clear. Now at the 2 dots, 12 lines down, Amdalam and Aleph, we quote the next part of the Mishnah. Anything that has that which is matirit is going to be chayiv. Tanu Rabbana, no, maybe says the brisa. Maybe the pasuk only means to exclude that which is similar. Bishlamim, ma shlamim that what yuchadim that cholon l'shnei yamim v'layla echad. Av kol, maybe it's only referring to karbanos that are nechal l'shnei v'layla echad. Nechal liyoim v'layla minayin. Where do we know that this halacha also applies to a carbon, which is eaten for one day and one night? Chatas asham ataida. Tamalaymar says the Torah mibisar from the meat of the shlamim. Kol sheshiaran sheshirayin echolin. So now I know that any carbon that the shirayin are eaten are included in this halacha of pigel. Oila, but what about an oila shein shirayin echolin minayin tamalaymar zevach? But minayin the rabbis oivas amin achais. How do we know to include a carbon that has an oif or a mincha? Says the Gemara, ad shani marbe lug shemen shel mitzayra. And how do I know that we also want to include a lug shemen of mitzayra that's as well included in the halachas of pegol? Talmud la'imar sharheim makdishim li. Says the Gemara, we learn it from the pasuk that says that it's an ishtar that's makdish li to me, which tells us that all karbanos are nichlal in these halachas of pegel. Says the Gemara, ve'asi naisar. Now the dinim of naisar leaving over chilul mitoma. Now naisar we're going to learn now from Xeris Shava, from chilul from toma. Va'asi pegel, and the halacha of pegel we're going to learn now from avain mi naisar. So we learn that like the halachas of toma, halachas of naisar and a pegel are going to apply to all karbanos. Continues the Gemara quoting the brayso. I should say for the rabbis called davar. Now that the end of the story is we're including everything is included in pegel. Lama nemar shlamim. So why is the shlamim singled out? You know what it's teaching you? Ma shlam yuchad sheishlan matirin. Bein la'adam bein lemizbeach av kol sheish lematirim. Bein la'adam bein lemizbeach v'chayavin alav nisham pigel. And that's going to be the makar for the din of our Mishnah, that once we know that pigel applies to all karbanos, the extra reference to shlamim shows us that it's dvarim sheish lematirim bein la'adam bein lemizbeach. That's where the halachas of pigel will apply. And we continue with quoting the next part of the Mishnah. Ha'ila. The carbon oila is that which is such, and really we're interjecting by quoting the Mishnah, but in reality it fits perfectly in. Dama matters b'sar lemizbeach, va'ira l'kahanim. The dam matters the basar to the mizbeach and the hide to the kahanim. Oila sa'if. How does that work? Dama matters b'sar lemizbeach. Hata sa'if dama matters b'sar l'kahanim. Par minister and Zevachim. Dama matters imureihem. Likarev. The Gemara quotes each item what it matters with. So now back to the brayso. What is excluded? We just said that we have a gzera shava, which includes everything. Avoin minaiser. So why do we have chilul mitoma? So why the extra reference of the shlamim? To teach us that it's so too will be included in pegel. So what's excluded on the last narrow line? Those are all excluded. Rabbi Shimon Omer on the first white line, Ma Shlamim, you know why the Torah equated to Shlamim Yuchadim Sheish Boy Al Mizbeach HaChitzon level of Kol Shen Al Mizbeach HaChitzon Chayav Elam Misham Pegel. So Shimon adds on a caveat that's not stam anything, but rather it's something that it goes on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, like the Shlamim Yatsu Parmen Seven Seven Esrafim Ha'il Shein Al Mizbeach HaChitzon Kishlamim Chayav Elam Misham Pegel. Because it's not on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, and that's why Sachai Misham Pegel. Omar Mar says the Gemara Kiyot B'Shlamim. The Brayser just said similar to Shlamim Maidihu. Asked the Gemara, what are we talking about? Bachar Dinech L'Shem V'Lei Le'echad B'Mayasi. Even Mamatzino, how can we equate a Bachar to a Shlamim? If it's a Mamatzino, you can never follow Sham Shein to Unusumich Unusachim Utunuvas Chaz V'Shaik. So it's not like a Bachar. Ela Miyam Eichel Yoichel Hani Sheiklai Dismicha Adadi. Then it says Gemara, understand how can you learn from Eichel Yoichel? These are two general statements written one next to each other. So therefore, it's not a klal upradu klal. Amarav or Amaravina Kedamri b'Marava Kol Makim Shetamaitzi Shnei Klalos as Buchel Zelazeh Hatel Prabe Nehem. It didn't kill klalu prat, even though it's not really a klalu prat klal, but rather it's a klalu klal. But says Rava, they taught us b'Marava that any time we have two klalos next to each other, we view it as if the prat splits them up. We're 12 lines to the bottom. Amdalim and Aleph says the Gemara, Ad shani marbe loik shemen shel mitzayra. Ask the Gemara, Hamani, who she does this that loik shemen shel mitzayra is included in Pegol. Rabbi Meir he Titania loik shemen shel mitzayra chavlam shel Pegol devir Meir. Ema seifa, but ask the Gemara 1 second. Then to the Brisa says the Moitziani mechas nechsachim adam, and that is not Rameir. That's asking the Rabban in the Tanya. Nischei behema chaven lamisha pegol b'meish adam zevachim azevach. What's in the car of Devi Rabbi Meir? And Amru lo say the Chacham to Rameir v'lo adam maybe a zevach vayoyim unisachin mekan adasar yamim. So say the Chachamim. It's not the same thing. So ask the Gemara, how can you learn it? Amr Lahem responds, im ha zevach. But the Gemara now is stuck. That asks the Gemara, how can we have the Reish Rameir and the Sefer Chachamim? Amar Rav Yosef, 5 lines from the bottom. Amani Rebbe. Tamar Loik Shemesh al Mitzayra. Matanaisav Sharule. Rebbe holds that this Loik Shemesh of the Mitzayra is a Matanaisav, its gift, its application, is that which makes the carbon mitzayra mutter to eat. I mean, the matnaisav sharule matnaisav mifalgule. Just like the matnaisav permitted, so too the matnaisav make it pigol. De Tanya. Now we go a little bit deeper. What is this sheet of Rebbe? 4 lines at the bottom. Look, shemen shal mitzayra. Mayalin by this is a din of meilad. She is a gadam. Is a gadam lenanem like mayalin. Once the dam is spilled, spritz, nizr thrown. Lo nanav lo marlim. Rabbi Omer marlin ad shitim matan isav. B'shavin shasav achila ad shitim matan sheva umatan bohines. So says the Gemara, Amru kamid Rav Yirmiyah Amar Gavar Rav Rav Yosef Lema Ki Amilsa. How could it be? How can anyone say that the pigel, according to Rabbi, is during this Rika, and that's going to create a full-fledged pigel on everything? Ask the Gemara, Hare, 1 second. What you're saying makes no sense. Why? And yet it does not make it pigel, even though it matters it. Titania, as you learned in our Bryce, we're still trying to prove the Gemara's kasha. Ask the Chacham in 1 second. So says the Gemara, that which Rav Yosef explained does not work. Rav Yirmiyah has a new pshat. Elam Rav Yirmiyah, lo elam Rameiri, b'sami makan. You have to remove this sachin. remove the word it's true that Nisachim is not a good part of all the keys. Amar Abaya, don't ask me, no, don't delete it. Vitani, look Abayim Ma'asham, Vuadil Nisachim, Abayim Zevach, V'Hader Tani, Sachem Abayim of the Yatsa, Vuadil look Abayim of the Yatsa. So as long as you add in these cases, it will work, says Abaye. Continue with the two dots, about 13 lines down. Chata Sa'if, Dama Matiras Besara, Likayhanim. The Chata Sa'if, the blood is the matir, the basar for the kohanim. Says the Gemara, what's the makar that the kohanim eat? The basar of the oif of a chatos menani mili ditani levi. Call karbana in the rabbis like Shem Shalom Sarasach that the chamina min haish. Kasrachmana v'hai. Kasrachmana. L'chol. No, 1 second. We skipped the line over here. Sal tamina min haish kasrachmana. V'hai lav meiser mina ishu. Kamash malon. So that is the chiddush. The chol min chaysam. So says the Gemara when the pasuk continues and says for other karban minchais, that's the rabbis minchas oimer minchas aikanais. Sal that the chamina v'achlo isam asher kabar b'hem minchas oimer lahatir asya. Minchas kanais levar avon kasya. Kamash malon. We continue with the two dots, and again, really, it's just continuing, darshaning up the psukim l'chol chatoisam, the rabbis chatasaif, salda l'chamin neveli, chol hashamayis, the rabbis asham nazir, v'asham mitzayer, salda mina l'achsher kasu, kamashalan, asham mitzayer behed yiksebei, the rabbis asham nazir, ke asham mitzayer, it's coming to be marbem, the asham nazir, asher yashivu, Zag gezel ager. This refers to someone who steals from a ger who then dies. L'chayihu shel chayihei shel chayiyah. Feels like kaddish b'asi isha that after the ger dies, it's yours 100%. So much so, can even be mekadesh and isha. We're going to stop over here because right now the Gemara now is going to go deeper into the end of our Mishnah. But the karbanos that are brought lifnim, what is the story with those karbanos? We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmai.